We'll go ahead and we'll talk just a minute here and let you know who David is, because I know you met him and you just listened to him for 30 minutes. Obviously, he can preach. He's done that a long time. How long have you been a preacher?
I was in church ministry for 34 years before going to Lincoln. I've been in Lincoln for five.
Okay. So, gosh, he's been preacher longer than I've been alive. So, I don't know how that makes you feel, but
well, anything makes me feel old nowadays. So, thank you.
I had to do that, so sorry. Anyway, let's get to serious stuff. I know a lot of you are probably familiar with Lincoln and who David is and what he does, but some of you don't, I'm sure. So if you would just kind of tell us, who you are and what your role is mainly with the school and what you're doing here.
Okay. 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, they asked me if I would consider coming back to Lincoln. I did graduate from there in 1980. And they asked if I would come back and serve as the Director of Church Ministries, which is basically, I'm the liaison between the university and our partner churches. And so I try to get out as much as I can. I preach almost every weekend someplace. I meet with church leaders and mission teams. I have coffee with ministers and lunch with ministers and breakfast with ministers. It's a great job. I mean, just a great job because I get to eat a lot and drink coffee. But just the relationship part, that when I started 5 years ago, my mantra was, if our partnership is you send us a check and we send you a thank you note, that isn't enough, that there needs to be a relationship. So that's what I do.
Awesome. How many of you know what Lincoln Christian University is and where it is? You don't necessarily have to raise your hand. Most of you, but I'm going to guess there are some who are not familiar with that. So I've asked David, and this is a big question, but if he could, somebody who doesn't know what the school is and what they're for and what they do, if you could just quickly kind of go over that. What is Lincoln?
Okay, we are a private Christian university, and our goal, part of our mission, is to equip students with a biblical worldview to go out and minister to the world, to change the world for Jesus. And that biblical worldview is very important, to be able to help everyone have that biblical foundation. And we'll have students who will come, and we are a ministry training school. We will train and send out ministers, but we also have a business major, and we want to have businessmen and women go out who have a biblical worldview and the ethics that are outlined in the Bible. We have a pre-nursing program where whatever someone who chooses to be a nurse will do, that they've got that biblical worldview. We'll have students who will come and they may study for a year or two and go on someplace else, but they're going to be a teacher, they're going to be a youth group coach, they're going to be an elder or a deacon in a church, and they're going to be more prepared to be that leader. And so we're just trying to raise up and send out kingdom workers, however that looks.
Speaking of kingdom workers, how many students are at Lincoln right now?
We have our undergraduate school and our graduate seminary, and then we have online classes as well. And with a combination of all those, we have about 800 students.
That's a pretty good chunk of kids learning about Jesus. And through the years, Lincoln's been around since, when did they start?
1944.
Since 1944. Roughly how many people have been through, would be considered Lincoln students?
Yeah, anyone who has taken a class at Lincoln is considered an alum. And I know that we have over 16,000 alumni that have at least taken a class. And we have alums who have served in 167 different countries. And we do have alumni living in all 50 states. And I shared first service that when I first started 5 years ago, the information I had was that we had alumni in 49 of the 50 states, plus Puerto Rico. And then that changed a couple years later, and I learned that we had 50 states. And so I did a little research and discovered that we finally got someone to move to North Dakota. And so that just shows that we are willing to go anywhere for the gospel.
And so when I said I would guarantee that you've been impacted by a student from Lincoln, with that many people in that many places all over the world, I guarantee you've come across people from Lincoln at some point in your journey. So what are some good things, a success story or two that has come out of Lincoln in the last few years or so?
Well, knowing I was going to come to Monmouth, I thought, well, let me start with an easy one. Probably 30 years ago or so, there was a young man named Gene Apple who served as youth minister here. And Gene left here, and he went to Las Vegas, and he grew a church from a couple hundred up to several thousand, and they planted a new church, and it grew to several thousand. He's going to be our Founders Day speaker late April. His dad, we're honoring Leon Apple, his dad, who died of a heart attack when Gene was young. But he would be one that he's nationally known. And so that would be a success story, and you had a part in that, in investing your life in his life when he was youth minister here. But I bring that up because he's well known, but I don't want to elevate him more than anyone else, because we have alumni who are serving in little churches no one's ever heard about, and they're faithful, and they're fulfilling their role in the kingdom. And there isn't that this is a really great success story and this isn't so much. We've got a lot. The alumni who go out and are just being faithful, we consider that successful.
Definitely. I didn't ask him this question. He answered it really well first service. We'll see if he does as good this service. New things on campus. A few years ago it changed from Lincoln Christian College to university. There's always things going on that are fun and exciting. So what's kind of a new exciting thing that you got going on over there in Lincoln?
One of the things I'm really excited about is, and it's not brand new, but it's within the first few years, is what we call the China Institute. And we started having students from China come to campus and study. And we have about 30 from China right now. And then they'll go back, and China is not the easiest place to get into as a missionary, but we have the field coming to us, and then we get to send them back, and they're better prepared to be ministers, missionaries, representatives of Christ. And so I'm excited about that. But I'm also excited just about the students that we have on campus. My guess is, I'm looking right here, there's a variety of ages. I'm not sure there's ever been a generation that didn't just kind of rub our heads and say, oh boy, what's it coming to? The next generation, what's the church going to be like, or what's our culture going to be like? That's happened for generations. I wish you could meet our students. Our students have a passion for Christ. They are students of prayer. They want to make a difference. And I believe that the church is in great hands. And so I'm just excited about the young students that we have, young men and women coming on campus.
That's awesome. Students are great, and they do have a passion. I think one of the neat things about Lincoln, and I said this a minute ago, is that they're just a little ways away from us. And so you could always go and visit. There's different things you could do to be a part of it, because we like that concept of partnership as well. That's a big reason we're bringing these guys here, is because we want it to be more than just a name on a piece of paper. We want to not only put a face with it, but be able to say, we've got a relationship with this place. And so my last question for you, David, is how can we partner with Lincoln and make it more than just a transaction?
There's a lot of things that we host on campus that we would love to have you come be a part of. We have elders, church leaders. It used to be an elders, but it's a church leaders conference that we host in February. We just finished up with that. We have a Christian women's conference coming up in April, I believe. We have the Vine concert for junior high schoolers. There's a lot of things that we host on campus that you can come be a part of. But one of the things I'm doing, I'm trying to encourage church staffs and sometimes leadership teams with being that close. If you just come to campus for chapel, it's not that far. Drives at 9:30 in the morning, but it's a service that you get to just be there to worship. You don't have to lead it. You don't have to plan it. If something goes wrong, you don't have to get mad about it. You get to come, and it's a good way of connecting. But I would say that I would really like to explore ways that not what you can do for us. You pray for us. You send us finances. Send us students. But what can we do to bring value to the church here in Monmouth? There are things that, whether it's having someone come to preach every once in a while, or teach, or work with youth, or we have LCU days where a church can have us come, and we'll kind of basically do the service, whatever you want us to do. And just anything that we can do to have that constant relationship, we're interested in.
That's great. If you haven't had a chance to meet David yet, he'll be hanging around here after service. There's a table back there in the corner, not really in the corner, but on that back wall, and there's prayer cards and information about the school. But he'll definitely be here and be hanging around for a little bit. So if you want to shake his hand or ask him some more questions, he would hang around back there. But give David a hand and just say thanks for
Thanks,
for
Brian.
being here.